assure you that Nance did not pay for that wine we were drinking that night as well. I wonder what all those announcers were doing. In fact, I was here last year when Vern was honored along with Sean and Bill Webb, a dear friend of mine as well. And Vern wanted to be here tonight, but he's back in Steamboat. He had a little operation. He's doing great. And he's working on a book about the 10 greatest announcers and what Vern thinks of the other 9. So at any rate, God bless him. He's the best. And you know I'm only kidding, Vern. You know, we all have a bunch of setbacks and things as you march into this profession, and jobs you covet and don't get, and relationships that certainly enhance your career. And I got bounced around and had so much fun doing it. By the way, Bob Lee, I knew he was going to be a success. He made our team sound like we were good. And that was difficult most nights, but I'm so proud of him and what he's done with his career. But you know, ESPN started in '79, and Scotty Connell and Chet Simmons, Dookie, Sean, as you well know, they met in the fall of that year. I was busy coaching Seton Hall, and it was the first time I ended up being on television. They had a team meeting up there, and they said to one another, you know, we would like an active coach to be in the studio in March who we are sure will not make the NCAA tournament. And that's how I got started 2 years in a row. Another good friend, Chuck Daly, and I used to go to the Final Four together. And when we would be there, we would always say, we're one player away. Chuck was at Penn. As the years would go on, it was the same line, we're one player away. And Chuck took a job with the Sixers with Billy Cunningham. And he's at Rutgers for that 76 team that was undefeated. And they've got us by 20 at the half. And I know I can make a comeback with a great speech at halftime. And with about 3 minutes gone in the second half, Chuck is next to my AD, Richie Regan. It's now 40 points. And Chuck says, Richie, when you see Billy later, tell him he's 2 players away from the NCAA. You know, Bill Webb was honored last year, as I mentioned. And I started with the Nets, and he was producer and director, and just a wonderful influence on my life. And we were up in Hartford doing a Celtic game. And it was the first interview I was to give. And he got on the headset. He said, hey, Nummy, do you know Ken Howard? I said, no. He said, the White Shadow. I said, no. He said, well, you're interviewing him in 2 minutes. So I went out on the floor at half court, and I started interviewing him. And I asked him the first question, and Ken Howard took a step away. I asked him another question, and he took another step away. So the half-court mini's doing the interview. So finally I finished. He must be 10 steps away from where we started. I got back on my headset, and Bill Webb said, nice job, nitwit. It's the only interview that started at half-court and ended on the baseline. You know, talk about running in this life. You know, there's some things that you're in awe of, and one of them was Darryl Dawkins, who was with the Nets. And the reason I tell this story is I learned how to get out of damage control, get set to run fast. And I came in the locker room after a game, and Darryl Dawkins looked up at me after a shower, sans clothing, and he said, you know, my girlfriend and I have been watching the games. You've been killing me about the way I shoot the basketball. And I said, you know, Darryl, we have a gun, and we're going to shoot you. And I said, you know, Darryl, if you shoot that gun the way you've been shooting that basketball, I have no problem. It was the quickest I ever moved. You know, one other I might pass on, probably the most important one, knowing that maybe I should change careers. I came home one cold and wintry evening from a scouting assignment, and I came in, and my wife Joan said, take the garbage out. And I said, hey, do you think Nell asked John Wooden to take the garbage out on a cold and wintry night? And Joan said, well, if you won like John Wooden, I'd take the garbage out. So that's been our relationship. But as I look around the room, I've been fortunate to work with pretty much everyone. So I see a lot of friends and familiar faces in the room. obviously CBS, close to my heart, Fox, Turner, as well as ESPN, which gave me my start. There's so many to mention, but I thank all of you for your support and friendship over the years. You know, when you were in television business, you have two families, your spouse and children, and those people who you are with on the road. At home, obviously, your wife is the boss. On the road, the producer is in charge. The only difference is I don't buy a producer a Louis Vuitton bag. I don't think Wolfie would look good in one. You know, I've had a superlative group of producers as well as directors who orchestrate the best show possible while raising the level of performance of talent and production crews. I'm grateful to all of them, as well as their associates, for teaching and nurturing me. Obviously, special thanks to our crew for the Final Four, Mark Wolf, Bob Fishman, especially Tracy Wilson, such a sharing person, and Jim Nance, who's one of the greatest of all time, and Grant Hill, who certainly epitomizes the student athlete. They're great talents and even better people, and what fun we have in March. I have a tremendous amount of affection for all the talented play-by-play people that I've worked alongside. I thank them for explaining to the public what I meant by my inane comments, as well as holding my hand when my plea for just one more goes unanswered as the lights flicker on and off at plenty after 12. Special thanks to one of our leaders at Fox, Eric Shanks, and his talented array of professionals. However, if it was not for the opportunity presented to me to be a part of the NCAA final broadcast, this award would not have happened. The CBS-Turner marriage is an extraordinary one, made possible by Sean McManus and David Levy. And of course, thank you, David, for your friendship and your support as well. CBS has been blessed by the leadership of Leslie Moonves and Sean McManus, who both have a passion and love for sports. I can't sing the praises of Sean McManus loud or long enough for his continual support and his everlasting belief in me over the years, as well as his key management team. Sean gave me an opportunity to be a part of the NCAA finals, and I thank him for having the confidence in me to do the job satisfactorily. Sean, I'm eternally grateful to you and treasure our friendship. And of course, our family, my mom and dad are deceased. My father always wanted to know, with his Irish accent, with me sleeping in and having a good time on the road, how does a fella get a job like that? And of course, my mom, no one holier than her, my sister Rita, who's a sister of charity. Here tonight with me, my wife Joan, who's the best, daughter Christy, her husband Nick, Kelly, Susie and Scott, Billy and Olivia, his lady friend, our grandkids, my sister I mentioned, of course, my brother Fran is here, as well as my nephew Brian. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be part of this great business.